Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tate for another discussion as part of awards season. Of course, the Golden Globes took place last night, the 81st annual Golden Globes, maybe add. And there are a lot of winners, there's a lot of losers, and there's a lot of things we're going to be talking about today. This is obviously the first time we've gone through an award season type thing. This is the first time we're doing award season, the whole season of the major award shows. So this is very new to us. So as always, we do want to hear from people at home. So comment your thoughts on the Golden Globes, your thoughts on the winners, the losers, shocks, surprises, other things you want to talk about. You may have seen the thumbnail, so someone's going to be spoken about. Because there is, of course, one major talking point. Two, actually, if you include the Selena Gomez incident. But you can, of course, comment about the film stuff too, because we do want to talk film, so please do that. And as always, get us on social media, linktree.com/cinemasavvy. But first and foremost, Tate, how are we doing today?
Yeah, doing good. I did not watch the Golden Globes live. It was at like 2 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the morning here where I am. I will be up for the Oscars, and we will do our yearly live stream for, which is kind of what we're building to with these videos. But yeah, what an unusual kind of way to start awards season. I know that we'll talk about the host coming up soon and stuff like that. But I'll be perfectly honest. Just summarizing the actual awards, I don't see any which I'm immediately standing out and jumping out and hating as far as winning the award. It seems to be very inoffensively okay that those people won. There's no big controversial ones, from reading down the list immediately. But yeah, very unusual to have an award season with no major controversies in the actual awards part so far.
Yeah, well, it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's only number one. We've still got 2 months and a week to go.
I'm not saying it's going to be a clean slate and everyone's going to get it right for 1 year. That's never happened. I mean, we've been complaining about Best Picture winners being very inconsistent over previous years and stuff like that. It seems to be that the last few years it has settled down a bit and it's actually been correctly picked in a lot of the times. But yeah, it's still there's always going to be controversial winners in the award season. It's just nice that it hasn't happened immediately in the first kind of set of awards given out.
Yes, I agree with you massively with that. And I think with the Golden Globes, it is obviously worth touching base that I'm not 100% certain on the rebranding, but the Hollywood foreign press, as it were, that voted for these, that rightfully came under a lot of criticism, that were rightfully shut down, etc., etc., that has now evolved into a new votership. Now, I don't have all that information to hand. I don't know if it's the same people, but they rebranded, like what they do in sport when this sort of thing happens. But it is not the Hollywood foreign press. So this was the first year of it being under a new system. And it somewhat felt like a new, judging off the winners. I have not watched the whole show. Here's the thing for you guys, if you're not based in America. They said this was going to go on Paramount Plus. I finally cashed in my free 1 week subscription. It was not on Paramount Plus, so I have had to go off their YouTube account for all of today. Of course, I've seen a lot more on Twitter, and we'll be talking about some of that. We're not a gossip channel, but there's obviously things we're going to talk about that will move the show. The obvious one is the Selena Gomez, Timothée Chalamet, Kylie Jenner triangle, which is probably one of the funniest things I've seen, and what has gone viral from that. And again, it's irrelevant to the award show, so we won't really go into it, but have a read upon that because it's sort of I don't know how she's going to cope with Zendaya when they're promoting June Part 2. That's all I can say. If she won't let him have a photo with Selena Gomez, who is part of one of the shows nominated, Only Murders in the Building. But we've got a couple of comments. We've got Dave watching, and he's already raised a question. We might answer this at the end. But do we think the Oscars are going away from these winners? It seems like I would have thought. A good question.
I think that's worth answering as we go through the awards because the answer is yes and no. So
it's the Golden Globes. You've always got the balanced knife edge of it. You get the musical and comedy side, and then you get the drama side. And then to me, the BAFTAs and Oscars is like merging the two together to see, is there a crossover? Is there not? However, even last year, the momentum of Everything Everywhere came later in the award season. I think Austin Butler won the Golden Globe. I think he won the BAFTA. And obviously, he did not win the Oscar. So there's a lot of... Oh, no, of course he won the Golden Globe. Sorry, ignore me because he was in the musical section. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the comedy Golden Globe, because we're going to get that out of the way first. Then we're going to go through TV. Then we're going to go through film. We are a film channel. We'll prioritize film to be the main discussion point. But as always with the Golden Globes, we had a monologue to look forward to from this year's comedian host. Now, I am not the be-all and end-all of stand-up comedy knowledge. I haven't watched a stand-up in probably a year or two. I might watch them occasionally. I enjoy going to see it live if someone's big enough that I want to see. I've got a few favorites. But the choice of hosts last night was called Joe K. Now, I'll be really honest. I haven't heard of him. That's not me saying, oh, he's not big because I haven't heard of him. That's just me saying I have not heard of him. I don't think I've seen a single thing he's been in. I looked at his IMDb this morning. But when I woke up this morning, aside from the Oppenheimer sweep, there was only one thing being spoken about that wasn't Selena Gomez asking for a photo of Timothée Chalamet. It was the monologue and the Taylor Swift joke made apparently later on, which was very fun. I thought that one was actually kind of funny. But I've got to say this, and it's something that isn't a comedy like connoisseur or whatever you'd want to call it. I watched this earlier. I was anticipating watching it full. I've seen clips out of context. Give me the 10-minute monologue. People telling the volume, and they're doing a Sky Sports. They're engineering fake laughing tracks. It's got to be one of the most must-watch comedy segments in years. This is everything you should show a comedian when they begin their career and hope that they don't go down this route. And listen, I said, I don't know anything about Joe K. I don't know about his personal life. I don't know about his family. I don't know his style of humor. But I can assure you one thing. To have it backfire on the Golden Globes, where the show known for them being drunk and taking the piss, to then slag off your writers midway through your monologue, claiming that they've wrote the jokes you're not laughing at, or however way he wanted to say that, I just honestly couldn't. Joe Coy, sorry. I couldn't get over the fact it was. I don't want to say bad because I don't want to sit here and slag him off, but I don't know if it's a step too far. He had 10 days notice taking the drug on. I don't know if someone else was lined up and publicly announced and they dropped out at the last minute. I don't know if the writers had these jokes written and every other comedian said, no, I'm not going to go on stage and say any of that. But this is like, I'll be honest, like for me who knows nothing, and the one thing I guess we mean to say about comedy, right? It's very rare that Americans go overseas, make it big in the UK and America, vice versa. Not many UK people go off to America. Some nail both continents, and those that do are household names. But this is one where I saw a really funny tweet earlier where the O2 were flogging his tickets for a show in May, and I think they were just putting like comedy timing jokes and stuff. But it wasn't good. And again, I don't know what jokes are written by him or written by the writers. I'm not going to sit here and jump on the high horse of how dare you insult X, Y, and Z. But there's reading the room, there's looking at the films that's been nominated, and then there's like cheap jokes, but then there's crap jokes. And I think the one they're all talking about is the Barbie one, right? Where the camera cuts to like Greta Gerwig looking on him. I mean, most people look unimpressed. The Harrison Ford one's gone viral. Meryl Streep doing an awkward Wakanda Forever that she clearly want to do. It was bad. It was bad.
I think the issue is with the Golden Globes, they've been famous for having Ricky Gervais do them in previous years, and he doesn't take it as a opening monologue. It's not an opening monologue, it's a roast. He is there to roast everyone in the room. He's there to roast the films that have happened previously. And if you're a good comedian, you don't need 10 days worth of material. You have that on the spot. You have that ready to go at all times. And I mean, no one UK side had heard of this guy before tonight. No one is gonna, well, they'll remember him for this, and they'll remember it for possibly ruining his career. What an absolute dreadful attempt at comedy. Like, it seems like he didn't even like the films that he was talking about, and he had no film knowledge at all. And they literally just went, we need a comedian who's literally in the local area. Like right now, who can we get like really, really fast who could maybe make a joke or two that would land? But even then, as a comedian, as a person who is presenting on TV, as someone who is representing the Golden Globes and, you know, is hosting the event, do not throw the writers under the bus.
Not this year.
If there's ever a time not to throw the writers under the bus, maybe don't do it when they've just come out of a writers' strike where they've been fighting for their lives, fighting for their rights. Maybe don't go, oh, it's all the writers' faults. Ooh, that's a sour note. I think it's awful. I think it's absolutely dreadful. And what's even funnier is that Ricky Gervais ended up winning, the comedy award in the end as well. And I know that there are controversies behind that and stuff like that. And, people can have their opinions on his style of comedy. That's fine. But realistically, someone who had a bit more cutting edge should have done this job. And if you can't get a good enough comedian in 10 days from literally anywhere in the world, 10 days, any comedian would have jumped to that. But if you can't do that, then just don't get a comedy host. Just get someone who's competent, not someone who's babbling on stage and doesn't really know what they're talking about and makes very just badly timed and badly directed jokes that don't land in the room, and then blame other people for your own show tanking. Anyone knows when you're doing comedy, you don't go, tough crowd. That's that's basic level. Like
and the problem is there's one or two good jokes and stuff, like there should be a lot more than one or two, but it was like,
it's clear that
I don't like cringe humor.
The good jokes that landed are probably the ones the writers did.
Well, this is it, and this is what I don't like. Like my furthest outside opinion is, don't slag off the writers, because then you are going to probably try and take credit for the ones that do land, which is unfair on everybody involved. And also sometimes you can have a terrible joke, but if it's delivered magnificently, then it doesn't matter. It's a terrible joke. It works. And I just think everything was wrong. From, oh, look, here's a 3-hour film joke about Oppenheimer, and let's do another long joke for Claire's the family. I'm like, yeah, brilliant. Like, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't good. Even the Taylor Swift one, again, I thought that was funny. She scowled. And it just, if people, do you remember when the La La Land thing happened? And there's that photo of every actor's reaction, and it's like the Rock's ready to storm the stage. They've done that, and they've got all the celebrity reactions from last night throughout the night, and it's absolute carnage. And I kind of feel bad for him, because he'll probably, again, I'm not one to put in scenarios, but again, if it's the writers, then that's sad. If it's him, then that's sad. And to do it on the world stage where people will be watching and people hear about it, and these are like, you're in one of the most lucrative positions you can be in as a comedian or host, to do the Golden Globes, then you're probably not going to get many more chances. And a massive shout out to BAFTA, who this week announced that David Tennant's going to be hosting the BAFTAs. Excellent. Which is perfect, because not that everybody likes him. Like Richly Grant last year, it's someone that commands respect from the room, from the get-go. They've got wit, they've got humor, people like them, and that they're also respectable of that industry and within the industry. And I know the Golden Globes always been the comedy thing, but you get great ones. You get Ricky Gervais, you get Tina Poehler and Amy. Oh God, I forgot her name. Amy Poehler, sorry, and Tina Fey. But it's one of them where this didn't work out. But we're here to talk films and TV. And the first one, we're just going to go through the awards. We're not going to list everything like the nominations, but if we want to have a chat, we'll have a chat. We might group it at the end. But comedy, we'll get out of the way. The weird new award, Best Performance as Stand-Up, won by Ricky Gervais. Me and you both said this weeks ago. He's like one of the Golden Globe icon people. He was always going to win this. I don't think he was even there to pick it up. Could you imagine if he was there and he picked up an award and gave a speech after that monologue? Yeah. So let's swiftly move on to TV. So people at home, if you're watching, comment. If you want us to chat about anything, we'll try and chat about them. We've grouped them together. So we're going to talk about like the miniseries first. Then we're going to talk about the music/comedy section. Then we're going to go into dramas. But TV-wise, let's group the miniseries together, because it's basically a clean sweep. Best female actor, Ali Wong from Beef. Best male actor, Stephen Yeun, Beef. Best limited series, Beef. Won all 3 of the miniseries categories. Now, I've not seen the show. I heard very good things about the show when it first came out. I also know about the controversy surrounding the show, which makes it a bit awkward to speak of. We are speaking about the winners of this. So I understand its meaning, but I kind of want to ask you, did you watch it? I don't know if we had the chat.
I hadn't, no, but it was one of those where I saw it being advertised a lot on Netflix, and I was like, do I want to watch it? Maybe I'll throw it into my list and I'll see whether it comes up and stuff like that. I may watch it. It may be one of those things that I watch this year if I get some time. There are loads of things I want to see this year. It's definitely not that high up on my list of things. Congrats to it for, sweeping the awards in the limited category. But we even said like beforehand, there wasn't really anything that properly, stood out in that category, really.
No,
So
and that's it. And kind of with some of these, I think you can always get a vibe of what's going to do well before it begins. Especially the mini series. The longer it's been out, the easier it is for them to speak up for people to go back to it because it came out such a while ago.
Funnily enough, since watching all of these things, I don't know how the when the nomination category is and when things can be submitted. Genuinely, if I'm picking my own kind of best limited series for the year, probably Bodies on Netflix with Stephen Graham and a bunch of really good actors in there. It was fantastic. It's 8 episodes long. It's set across 4 time periods. Really enjoyed it. But I don't really watch too many limited series. I end up either watching, full-on series or, films.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with timing, I mean, Lessons in Chemistry, I've heard a lot of. I know Brie Larson's nominated. That, I think, just finished airing in the last few weeks. So you look at, again, time as a respective that a lot of them might have watched it all. But we'll move on. We'll talk about some of the others. We've got another sweep to talk about. Looking at TV series, musical comedy. Best female actor, Ayo Edebiri, apologies on pronunciation. Best actor, Jeremy Allen White. Rounding the treble, best TV series, musical comedy, The Bear. Again, another clean sweep. Now, I said this a few weeks ago. I haven't watched it. I have a couple of shows I need to watch at the moment. One of which I've done. There are 2 more to do. I really want to watch this because I keep seeing memes. I keep seeing people talking about it. It seems like one of the shows I'm going to enjoy. It's going to probably a show that's going to make me really hungry, which is really bad, but I like shows like that. I'm not surprised. Again, this is one that suits. I know we're also in this weird stage where the Emmys are like halfway through being done. The Emmys are split up over multiple nights. They were moved from August to January due to the strikes. So we had Last of Us win a load of technicals on Saturday, but the main award ceremony I don't think is until like the 21st maybe of January. So the Emmys, it's such a big thing that it's split up over so many different evenings. But The Bear is one that I think, again, people are talking of it. It's got the hype going for it. And again, I've not seen, so I can't comment, but I'm not surprised. I haven't watched that much TV this year. My mindset is, do I watch a 10-episode series? That's 10 hours. That's 5 films. And would I rather watch 5 films? That's always my problem.
I mean, my only comment on The Bear is I've got 2 episodes in and then stopped watching it last season because other things came on. But I still don't see it as a comedy 2 episodes in, which is interesting. It's like a cooking, not even like a drama. It's just like a.
It's definitely drama from what I've heard. Well,
yeah, it's not really a comedy, is it? That's the only confusing thing to me, at least.
I'd need to watch it to know. But we know what the Golden Globes is like, right?
Yeah, we do.
But let's go to the main ones. Okay, this is where the Golden Globes get weird. Supporting actor roles are combined into both musical comedy and drama, which I still find bonkers. I know it's just to save handing out 4 more awards across all of it, but Elizabeth Debicki won for The Crown. Obviously, she played Diana. And Matthew McFadden won for Succession for Best Supporting in both of those. Speaking of Succession, let's just get going, shall we?
Yeah, let's just do it.
Best female actor, Sarah Snook. Best male actor, Kieran Culkin. Best TV series, Succession. Not surprising. I do want to give Kieran Culkin a massive shout out because The Last of Us is creeping up on the Emmys. It's won a couple of awards. I'll actually jump in and say The Last of Us should not have won Best Soundtrack at the Emmys. That should have been Succession. And there's all this talk now of could the Emmys go the way of Pedro? And basically people think it's now Pedro Pascal versus Kieran Culkin for Best Actor at the Emmys. Kieran Culkin did a lovely shout out to Pedro Pascal after he won. Lots of Bradley Cooper jokes. We'll get to that later on. But what are your thoughts on that? Because Succession, it feels like so long ago, but it really wasn't. It's like May, June it finished, but I just cannot get out of my head. It should be winning this.
I still have a finger on the pulse in Succession. I still follow the Succession subreddit, and it's still thriving post-show. I love Succession. I will go back and watch it. I don't know when, but, for such a phenomenal series, such a fantastic drama series with so many comedic elements. And I'm so glad that Kieran Culkin won because his performance in just across the entire series has been phenomenal. And, his speech was brilliant. His speech was fantastic. It felt like, a Roman Roy speech, you really felt it. But no, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they swept the entire thing. I know that Last of Us has been creeping up in the other awards and stuff like that, but I mean, to say Succession pretty much swept the entire board of all the awards that it could have won is not really saying much at all, including the best TV series drama, which it absolutely thoroughly deserved. It was a brilliant final season. It's very rare that a show goes out on a high, and its last episode and last series in general were just phenomenal. Just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant TV. And yeah, that's all I can say. Just I'm glad that it swept, and shout out to Matthew Flanagan, Sarah Snook, and Kieran Culkin for winning in their respective categories.
Yeah, and I don't think people can, especially when it's the final season of a series.
You can't compete with it, can you?
No, and there's some great. I mean, the fact again, and sometimes what happens is votes get split when you've got 3 of the leads from that show up for best male actor. You can understand why people might think Pedro could nab it, because if the votes split, I mean, I don't think it'd be 3 ways. Brian Cox really, I don't think is up for it for last season, but yeah, it's one of those. But that being said, let's talk film. This is our main sort of sector, so I guess we get way more time to talk about it if we need to. And we're going to kickstart with the. Okay, let's just get out of it. Yeah. Cinematic and box office achievement, rightfully won by Barbie, and I will say 100%. This 100%. If this Golden Globe is the highest grossing film of each calendar year, well done. That does not need to be an award because everybody knows that film as the year goes on. Yes, I do agree that blockbusters or films that gross a lot of money should not necessarily have more recognition at Oscar season. If they warrant being recognized at Oscar season, then I 100% guarantee and will say they should be rewarded. But the worry with a category such as this is if it's not the number 1 highest grossing film, then what are you doing? And that's where I think it's fundamentally pointless because it's a tip of the hat. And it's a tricky one because it's important that these films are recognized. And this is one of the 2 Golden Globes Barbie won. I don't think this was invented for Barbie's sake. I do think this was genuinely invented because of Top Gun Maverick. Again, a film that wasn't going to win Best Film, so it was going to get something else. But I feel like if next year they do this again, it's not the highest grossing film of this year, then it's a joke. Is it?
Yeah. I mean, there is the other way of looking at it where it's like, the best box office achievement. So a film that's gone from a very low budget, like Godzilla -1, that's gone and made a decent amount of money. That is a good box office achievement, especially for a foreign language film to be able to go and do that. I would say that would be a good candidate for this category. I mean, by saying that, you'd kind of say as well, Taylor Swift, I mean, not from the actual box office takings, but the fact that she was able to kind of, be the producer for it herself. Like she basically bailed
out the cinemas during the strikes too. The cinemas, not the studios, the cinemas. She made sure there were no studios attached.
If you see it that way, then that film deserves to be there. So I think there are different stipulations for it, for why it should be for different nominations, stuff like that. But as long as there's like a clear set of rules, those are the reasons why it's being voted on. If it's just the highest grossing film of the year, and that's the only kind of thing that's in there, then I feel like Taylor Swift should not be in this category at all. And, that's just, we already said that in our kind of nominations video, but taking into account, the achievement part of it and saying, hey, we're looking for films that have achieved in the box office, films that brought people back to the seats, films that, an indie flick that's done really, really well and kind of got its message out there and stuff like that. So in the end, there needs to be kind of a set of rules put aside for that. If they're going to continue with this category, it may end up being, like the Oscars where they had that best cinematic cheer moment that went to a film that wasn't in cinemas. We'll give it to a film that's not in cinemas. Great. But yeah.
You raise a good question of Godzilla. Not saying it should be nominated for this, but if you're basing an award off a box office achievement, right? And that film is still playing in cinemas, or okay, let's take a film that hasn't come out when the awards were all nominated. How can they? Is this got different start and end dates? Because if the cutoff point, let's say, was December the 1st, Godzilla had been screened to critics, but it hadn't been released to the public, and we're in January and it's growing. So it's a really interesting mindset. There's another film recently, Anyone But You. Not saying it should be anywhere near this, but it's like gained 10% on its 3rd weekend. And again, it's tricky to do audience metrics and award show, but I agree there should be, if they made it clearer and their stipulations are like must gross X amount. I'm pretty sure. I think there's a way to do an award like this, but it needs to be restructured and rethought. And what they put, you can't put. I mean, listen, I love Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. You can't put a film that has lost the studio money in for best cinematic and box office achievement. You just cannot. But they have. But we didn't have to talk about that film, thankfully, till next year. Not that film, sorry, that award. We'll go the standard. Best original song. Won What Was I Made For? Billie Eilish, Phineas, of course, won it. Barbie, and this is the one thing I found really interesting. Barbie, second and only other win of the night. 9 nominations, and I didn't really clock this until yesterday when I was having a look through. Barbie led with the most nominations. I'm not, by the way, doing some weird Barbie versus Oppenheimer hype train for the season. I'm not. But because Barbie is nailed on to have like 2 or 3 nominations in song, that sort of not oversaturates its credibility, but you're seeing the high nominations number, but if they're all taking each other out in the same category, then it like sort of it's still a phenomenal achievement. Like to have 9 nominations across 7 categories, probably is the best way of saying it. But to only win 2, and I'm curious what it means moving forward. I know that obviously the Golden Globe don't really do technical awards, but I'm curious on your thoughts because also I agree this is the song that should be winning out of the 5. But
I really like.
As much as I want, I'm Just Ken, and I know that Peaches didn't make the shortlist for the Oscars. But you can understand why this is. They want I'm Just Ken. They want Ryan Gosling to sing it. They want him to do it live, but they all know ultimately that can't win the best song. That's my mindset.
And I am also on that meme train to hear him perform it, and it is a shame that it's a shame that Peaches isn't on the shortlist because that would have made for just 2 amazing performances on the night. But realistically, this song category goes to a Bond song, and if it doesn't go to a Bond song, then it goes to whatever is the best song that comes into the films. And I mean, yeah, it's probably the best song on that list, realistically. So it makes complete sense that it would win in that category.
Billie Eilish probably. Maybe 2XL, soon to be a 2-time Oscar winner by the age of what, like 24, 25, however young she is now.
God, do you wonder whether she'll set her sights on an EGOT?
I'm pretty sure she got a couple. She's done something.
She's definitely got Grammys. She's got Grammys for sure.
She's got Grammys. She's got Oscars.
She hasn't got Tony.
She did something for Nightmare Before Christmas on a live stage last year. I don't know if it was just a concert or if it would be something that goes towards a Tony, but that's a good shout. She'd need an Emmy then, I guess, if she's not gotten already. But wouldn't be surprised, especially with how young she is as well. But talking up, let's go for a couple more. So, following song, best original score, Ludwig Göransson, Oppenheimer, absolutely the right choice. One of the greatest soundtracks. And I'm gonna say this isn't the Nolan hype in me. The more I've listened to this over the last year, the more I genuinely think it's one of the best soundtracks I've heard the last decade. And not blowing smoke, but Ludwig Göransson did that with Black Panther. Black Panther is one of the best scores. Take the marble side out of it, people would rate it higher. It still won an Oscar. An incredible soundtrack. His research into like African music and African heritage to even do a score such as that. Then his approach to Oppenheimer, it is just remarkable. And I'm glad that this is getting the love in. Sometimes I know it's not the Oscars, it's very tricky to talk about it, but they try not to give people multiple wins in short space of time. I know 5 years isn't really a short amount of time, but when you think people like Hans Zimmer had to wait 20 years between 1 and 2, and you can look back and say, was that even the best 1 and 2 of his career? It's one of those, but I think Ludwig could be sweeping. Still an amazing year for some of these soundtracks. I still love the fact Spider-Verse got a nomination and it's made the long list everywhere else, which is great because I didn't think that would get recognized, if I'm being honest. We'll be talking about Spider-Verse in a little bit of time. Best screenplay.
Very quickly, just on that, because we didn't mention it in nominations, but 2 animated films getting nominated there is great because, animation, people have made their points very clear on it. It is cinema, it is film, and, the music from it is sometimes, thrown to the wayside, thrown to the background. And, I'm glad that at least 2 films there were put forward for it.
No, I'm with you. And also it's great to separate original songs from soundtrack because Barbie has an underrated soundtrack, but because of its songs, no one obviously knows anything but the soundtrack. Same with Guardians 1, I'd say. But no, I'm glad you brought that up. We'll talk about animation shortly. We've also got best screenplay, no adapted, no original. We'll talk about the Oscars drama in a couple of weeks when the nominations go up. But Anatomy of a Fall wins best screenplay. Your thoughts on that? I've still not seen it. It's on my list to watch in the next couple of weeks.
I mean, it's a phenomenal screenplay. It's an absolutely phenomenal screenplay. Realistically, I would have wanted The Holdovers to win, but it wasn't nominated. So, dare I say, it's one of the best screenplays on that list. And I will rewatch Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah, there's not very much more I can say. It brilliantly weaves itself between 3 different languages within the film, and is able to keep the tension with a courtroom drama through voice recordings, through actual kind of witness testimonies, through recounting of events, through kind of walking through the scenes of the crime and stuff like that. It's phenomenal in that sense, and the fact it's able to weave that narrative, yeah, I do agree with it as far as the win's concerned. It'll be very, very interesting seeing, it go up in its category, because wasn't there a controversy around Barbie, being put forward as an adapted screenplay now?
Barbie's been put as adapted, and you know what? It's
Yeah.
actually visibly pissed me off. They ran it as original, and they've been told it's adapted. Now, is it people? Oh, but if you do an original biopic film, it's original. Like, yes, if the biopic isn't based off source material, Barbie, irrespective, yes, it's not telling the story of how a toy came to be, but it is based on an intellectual property that not only is an intellectual property, has dozens of animated films, has a history, has everything. And listen, it's caused a weird outrage. It's a phenomenal screenplay. And you know what I'll say? Since when has it been a crime to be up for best adapted, not best original? Because it's got a great screenplay irregardless, and I like they split that category up. I don't like it merged together, because if you're adapting a book, that gives you an insanely unfair advantage compared to someone who's come up with something genuinely. I don't like it's original, but it's a biopic. I'm in that crowd, but it is a complete outright original concept, and you lose to someone that adapted the Bible, wasn't it, hypothetically, then you'd be like, yeah, well, they didn't have much to choose from, did they? So it's a tricky one, but of course Barbie's adapted. Like, can anyone really complain? Like, really, like, look at yourselves, look at your reactions online. It's childish, and it's just frustrating.
What it does mean though is Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, it opens up original, yeah, and
absolutely opens up original. It is a straight shootout between that and The Holdovers, and honestly, after winning this
Past Lives.
Past Lives, but realistically, after winning it here, I think it wins at the Oscars. That kind of almost confirms it.
No, I agree with you, and again, it makes it exciting that. And this is what we kind of said before, because the Golden Globes give 6 nominations for a lot of awards, not 5, because the Golden Globes splits up music, comedy / drama, it doesn't make it as obvious for the preluding BAFTA and Oscar. And to be fair to BAFTA, in its credit the last few years, it's stopped being a Oscar precursor and is its own thing for British cinema. So it makes award season more exciting to cover as a whole. So I don't think we're going to be listing the same 3 things every other week. But let's go to the supporting roles again. This is the weird one. Again, they've comboed best supporting actor in a comedy and musical alongside, obviously, drama, but you get 6, not 5, so it's not as much as an Oscar run as we think. Davine Joy Randolph wins for The Holdovers, which is phenomenal.
As expected.
As expected. I've seen 3 of the 6, no, 4 of the 6 now. 4 of the 6. From the 4 I've seen, this is very well deserved. I think she's one of the best things in that film. The cast is great in that film, irrespective. But I really, from the 4 I've seen, I don't think anyone deserved it over then. Color Purple's not out here yet, and I've not seen Naiad. Do you want to say, or should I jump into Best Supporting Actor quickly? Because
it's going to win the Oscar.
Kind of
I was going to say Divine Joy Randolph. Yeah, Divine Joy Randolph's winning. Sorry, Divine Joy Randolph is winning. Best Supporting Female Actress. And RDJ is winning clearly Best Supporting Actor. Those 2 are some of the biggest lock-on, things. And yeah,
I mean, the supporting actor. I mean, there was a lot of hype with Charles Melton coming in the last sort of month or so, because I think he picked up a couple of critics awards. Ryan Gosling's been there since July. I'm seeing Poor Things tomorrow, but you've got Ruffalo and Dafoe in there. De Niro, who's great because the Flower Moon, but I'm not saying because of Oppenheimer. Robert Downey Jr., it's his career. I hate redacting it to a career award. It is one of his best performances. He's so against the character. He's so against himself, his reputation. And the more you watch Oppenheimer, his role is actually, you forget he is the only person other than Cillian Murphy who has scenes where he is the point of view. and I absolutely love what they did with him. And a massive shout out to Alden Ehrenreich as well in that series, in that film. Sorry, not series, not to make a stretch out of the Oscar host. But let's go for a couple of big film ones. Best non-English language film, won by Anatomy of a Fall, as you kind of expected. Beating out, I know you just did the Review Society to Snow. We'll plug that. That's up on the channel. That's streaming on Netflix. The Zone of Interest, which is out in a few weeks here. Past Lives, which we know about, and then Io Capitano, Fallen Leaves, which have obviously been spoken about. Best animated film. This is where I'm going to leave it to you. The Boy and the Heron.
This is
wins.
big. I need to rewatch this film because I wasn't the biggest of fans. It was very early in the morning when I watched it. It was like an 8 o'clock screening at the London Film Festival. I don't think I was fully in the right frame of mind to fully focus in on a foreign language film. I know that a lot of people have been giving praise for the English voice cast that have been put forward for it and stuff like that. But yeah, interesting. This is a big shakeup. It's very clear that Pixar are not at the races. Elemental's not going to be picked. Wish, I don't even know why it's nominated in the first place. I thought there was an outside shot of Super Mario Bros. Movie just because with a lot of these animated awards, they just make their kids watch them and vote on them and stuff like that. Realistically, Across the Spider-Verse is up there and is the strong pick for it. But wow, I'm crazy surprised that Boy and the Heron, Studio Ghibli's gone and won it, and it's definitely thrown the Oscars all up in the air, or what I was predicting was going to win at the Oscars. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what gets nominated and stuff like that, of course, when it comes to the actual award, like when it comes out. But wow, that's a big win for Studio Ghibli. That's a big win for Miyazaki, and yeah, I'll have to rewatch Boy and the Heron, and maybe I'll like it on second run. Maybe I won't. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it is interesting that it might pick up a bit of momentum potentially, and I know it just came out in America right as well, so it's got time on its side. I still think it'll be Spider-Verse come March, but it's one to keep an eye out for. And let's quickly go through some musicals, comedies. Best female actor, Emma Stone, Poor Things, which I think we all saw coming. There's by the way, shout out to Jennifer Lawrence, who probably had the funniest joke of the night, who basically said, "I'm leaving if I don't win this" on the camera. Surely knowing that she was never going to win for No Hard Feelings. But and I'll say it's nice to have an outright comedy be nominated for best, not the it's a drama, but we will put it as a comedy, or it's a whimsical, we'll put it as a comedy. To actually have an outright, this is an old school R-rated drama comedy, whatever you want, whatever your thoughts on it. It's nice to get actual comedic roles recognised for this. And best male actor won by Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, which I think we all knew was happening. Shout out who was spotted a couple of hours after the Golden Globes at what's it called in America? An In-N-Out, the burger place.
Yeah.
With the Golden Globe on his desk eating his burger in peace. Sensational. And then we'll just run out quickly that Poor Things, though, did beat The Holdovers to best film in that section.
And that is that's very interesting. I know that Poor Things is picking up a lot of traction and could be entering the fight for Best Picture come the Oscars. But it is a shame that Holdovers, which I know is a fantastic film and I really, really enjoyed, didn't win in that category. I do hope it gets an Oscar nomination, even if it doesn't end up, it's got no chance of winning Best Picture. I think Best Picture is, we'll talk about that film a little bit later on. But I'm glad that Giamatti won. His performance was fantastic, and Poor Things winning. Still haven't seen Poor Things. I just hear really good things about it.
Yeah, I'll be seeing it tomorrow, so there'll be a review up on the channel. I've heard there's a couple of people that don't like it, that've seen it, but most people have loved it, so I'm very curious. Again, is it one that picked up steam at the start of the Oscars, the festival cycle, and might run out? Who knows? But it's too early to tell.
It's an interesting one because I feel like Yorgos Lanthimos has suddenly kind of, he's picking up a lot of traction with his films and everything like that. Like The Favourite was fantastic, and I really enjoyed The Favourite. But I mean, ever since The Lobster, I've been kind of watching his films, and he seems to pick the right actors for the role, and has that certain level of weirdness that he can just having running through the entire film. So I'm intrigued to see kind of what Poor Things shows, but from what I've seen so far, it seems like right up my street, as far as film's concerned.
Yeah, keep an eye out, people. That will be up, and I'll drop you a message when I've seen it. Cineworld early screening for anybody that doesn't know, by the way, it's not a press screening, it's Cineworld, so you can watch it early tomorrow. But let's get into the drama. So, best female actor, Lily Gladstone, because the Flower Moon. Very happy with this, if I'm being really honest with you. I thought she was phenomenal in that film. I know she's been one of the heavyweights. I know they spoke about her versus Emma Stone as the Oscar battle for this year. She had a very good speech, which I recommend for people to have a look at. It's on the Golden Globes YouTube page now. But more than anything, I actually want to give, not to sort of take away from her, someone did a post about Leo earlier. Apparently, the entirety of this award season, the marketing, the PR, Leo's kept Lily Gladstone with him because he's wanted the limelight to be on her, and he kind of knows subsequently that the cameras are on him. So he's made sure like she's been with him to elevate her, which I think is actually a really good thing to have done. Even the red carpet yesterday, they went together, which again, he didn't need to do that, but he's trying to. I don't mean this in like a horrible way. Leah's great in the film, but I didn't see it as his film. I think from when she's in it, Lily Gladstone is the best actress or actor in that film as a whole, and her speech is very much worth looking at. Again, I've not seen all of them in that category. I know that Anatommy of a Fall again is a film people are speaking about.
Sandra Hüller was fantastic in it. Really, really, really good in it. And I also want to point out that Carey Mulligan's been picking up a lot of steam for Maestro, and I think a lot of people are getting on board with Maestro. It goes both ways, though. A lot of people have been getting on board with Maestro. A lot of people have been, criticizing and publicly stating their hatred for Bradley Cooper. At the same time,
people have been very
so weird.
People are like criticizing him that he wants to win an Oscar.
It's like you're criticizing actors for trying to achieve their lifelong goal. What are you doing?
The bit I saw, and I've got to take the bias out of it, is I think the thing that may have been the final straw for a lot of people was when he made Actors and Actors. He made the backhanded comment at Cillian Murphy, didn't he, for Oppenheimer? And I think that set people off. And I think it's childish because if I was an actor, you'd want to win an Oscar, right? That's not the point of it. But when you're like him, who has done franchises, you've done highest grossing films, you've done trilogies, you've done comedy, you've done drama, you've done directing. I'd be pretty fucking pissed off if I was him and I lost to Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody. That's what I would say about that. And A Star Is Born is a phenomenal film. And I know he spoke how he spent he learns to compose to do Maestro. He spent 6 years learning or stuff like this. Tar. You forget the other composed film, and I didn't see that going around last year. She spent 6 years learning it all, but it's a really tricky one. People are so OTT on him. And maybe it's sad that I find some of it funny, but like I also find it funny how angry people are that he wants to win an Oscar. But it happens, and you know what? Just leave him alone. Let him be. I say that.
Here's the thing. I mean, we got into this because I mentioned Carey Mulligan, but I feel like
Carey Mulligan is amazing, and she's been phenomenal in the film.
But she's been dragged into it just
and
for
he's
association
by the way.
Being in the film.
He's not just working with her as a performer; he's directing her, and his direction is very good in that film. I think his direction is better than his performance in that film. That's my honest thoughts on it. And I think Carey Mulligan is the best thing in the film, if I'm being really honest.
I think that's a fair shout.
Is Carey Mulligan better than Lily Gladstone? I don't think so. I think it's a very well-deserved win, and I'd like this to carry on. But if we move on to best male actor, we've just been talking about them.
Literally just talking about it.
Cillian Murphy wins for Oppenheimer. I don't want to sit there and say as expected, really deludedly, but
it's
because it was July when it came out, right? Do you know you get this with award season and people at home, if I'm being snobby, tell me. Sometimes there's this like early front runner, and it's so early front running that people forget when it gets January, February. We're not done talking Oppenheimer for those that haven't actually watched the news today, but I felt like, is Bradley Cooper going to get that momentum hype train? But I think there is a standard that's been set, and I think Cillian Murphy in that film is outstanding. I think the best performance of his career, and I think my approach to award stuff, I'd like to look at that as, okay, sometimes you've got actors who have like done the best performance ever 30 years ago, and it kind of paralleled, but I look at Maestro and I look at Bradley Cooper and I know he did a better film 5 years ago. I look at Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer and I can't say he did a better performance in the film from Sin. And then I can say, unfairly comparing TV to film, it's his best role, and this is someone that was the lead role in 6 seasons of Peaky Blinders. It's a well-deserved win, but also, again, his speech, he's not into the media limelight. He's not lapping up for interviews, for coverage. Like, he's in it for the profession and for the ability to act in. What another one with a great speech, but I'm very happy with this. I like seeing the actors win the awards when they are the best of the group, and I can't compare. And also, I've got to say the other contenders, Barry Keoghan for Saltburn. I didn't realize he'd be in this. Oliver Strange isn't out here yet. Andrew Scott, of course, is meant to be phenomenal in that. Carmen Domingo and Rustin, I don't think it's been released to either yet, but Leo, who I think he's great in that. But again, you can't look at Killers of the Flower Moon as Leo's.
Okay, he was going to get nominated because he's Leo anyway, but
yes.
you know,
it's Lily Gladstone's film to have
it's
that.
Literally it's just Cooper versus Murphy in that category.
And I don't think it's a versus, if I'm being really. BAFTA certainly not. We know we can tell you who's won the entirety of BAFTAs. Thank you, British director and British production and everything else. But the Oscars is going to be the battle, and the SAGs obviously, which is always a short running.
I'd be intrigued to see, because of course that won't be a split category, and you know, just saying, Paul Giamatti is going to be in there. You know.
By the way, did you see Bradley Cooper's face when Killian won though? That's the other thing going viral.
No, I haven't. No,
it's not quite Tarantino spitting his wine out, but it's I think pain in the eyes is like meme culture, isn't it? Like, you can see it in the eyes. He's smiling, he's happy, people being OTT, but some people are celebrating that he's lost. Like, why don't you celebrate the winner? I'm buzzing Killian's win.
Exactly.
I've got my Oppenheimer quad poster coming back this month, and it's signed by him. So I cannot wait. I pulled the trigger on that finally.
Yeah, I just want to kind of piggyback off you and say that it is Cillian Murphy's best role. He fully deserved it. And I think this is where we bring up Dave's comment. Do we see the Oscars going this way? I think for these ones here, I think it could be sealed up and done. I think it's going to be a sweep across these categories. I think Oppenheimer's going to win Best Actor. I think it's going to win Best Director. Clearly, obviously, that's already sealed up. And I think Best Film is becoming less and less of a competition now. I think it's done it. It's over the line. George, you may get the party.
Finally, my year.
And celebrate. It's your year, George. It's your year. I will let you.
Dunkirk.
I will let you. Oh, Dunkirk! Oh, come on, Dunkirk. No, this is a better film than Dunkirk.
It is. It's his best film of his career.
Like
director from to win Best Director. I want to bring them up.
I want to throw out there the direction that was involved in Inception and Interstellar.
I agree.
Direction.
But
this may be his best, one of his best film packages. Not maybe his best, but I think it is thoroughly deserved amongst the nominations from this year, and it's thoroughly deserved as far as his career is concerned.
Yeah, and it's a touching speech that he begins talking about Heath Ledger too. And for those that I'm not like a stan that sits there watching interviews all day, but Nolan's quite emotional when he gets upon that stage. It's when he starts talking about Heath Ledger, and you kind of don't realize what it's like for like anybody to probably be in that situation, that you're accepting an award on behalf of someone you directed that passed away, and you were there collecting their due. And he spoke really well, and he spoke about Robert Downey Jr. back then, obviously 2008, Tropic Thunder. Similar to RDJ now. That's why I've always known Robert's going to sweep, because Ryan Gosling will get his Oscar one day, but the comedic role isn't going to beat the dramatic role, which was literally the case with Tropic Thunder and The Dark Knight in 2008. But listen, Nolan's won best. I think he's got it all around the board. They'll look at it as a combination of not just what he's done in the industry, not just what he's achieved with that film, but again, pretty much grossing $1 billion on a $100 million budget, a 3-hour nuclear bomb film. Looking at what he's done for cinemas, I think they'll be looking at the whole post-COVID, looking at what he's done for the industry, for cinemas, all that sort of stuff.
He's one of the only directors nowadays where you hear his name and you're going to that film.
Yeah, and I'd say, and if it wasn't known, it's a pretty great year still. The fact Greta Gerwig was nominated is fantastic. Bradley Cooper, I thought his direction's very good in the film. I think, as I said, the direction's better than his performing. I think Scorsese wins any other year, because the Flower Moon's actually going to sweep, if I'm being really honest. It's probably going to come second fiddle a lot this year.
I don't know. I feel like, especially with this year having 3 foreign language nominations, I feel like one of them could have taken the charge. And it seems like that's going to be Anatomy of a Fall. We were talking in the nominations video that it could have been Past Lives or Zone of Interest that could have, really taken the reins. But
Zone of Interest, I'd put money on that if it's going to do anything, no, I think BAFTA's cemented for Nolan, etc.
Yeah,
I think Zone of Interest is really going to pop up because it's Jonathan Glazer,
it's
because
gonna
it's
be one of
British.
those All Quiet on the Western Front last kind of ditch runs for it, isn't it?
I just think it'll be the British Academy that maybe look at that more so than the Americans. I'm not that don't mean that sound like a racist comment, it probably does, but there's All Quiet is a perfect example. Like maybe European cinema is a better term than the American cinema, but I see that 100%, and we know the nominations are coming soon.
I mean, take Oppenheimer out. If you're looking at best film, I'm looking more towards the comedies this year than the dramas. Funnily enough,
I'm
I'd be
looking
looking.
at Killers the Flower Moon. I mean, Holdovers
I'd be
didn't get
looking at.
nominated for best film.
I mean, I'd be looking at Poor Things. I'd be looking at Barbie having a shout as well. It would open up the category even
Not
more. The
nominated either though.
holdovers.
But this is what's interesting is the BAFTA long list came out last week. Now I disagree with them publicly releasing long lists. It's become way too OTT. The 10 on the long list for best film at BAFTA, someone said would be the greatest Oscar year in history if that was 10. And people should have a look at that. I think it was all the ones we spoke about and a couple of others. Like it's got the Holdovers on there. It's got Zone of Interest, Anatomy of a Fool, obviously Barbie, Oppenheimer. I think Spider-Verse made the long list of the 10, potentially, maybe. It was varied, but the BAFTA long list is very good. And to narrow it down to 5 is going to be a big task. Again, the Golden Globes, they have 6. They sheepishly don't cement the final 5, but I cannot see past Oppenheimer this year. I really, and especially with the American side as well, like with it being about an American scientist as well. I think that adds that dynamic. That Dunkirk, I know I sing its praises. If Dunkirk came out today, maybe it doesn't win best film at the Oscars, but I reckon it would be winning best film at BAFTA, and that's just the British versus the American difference. And that's how I feel. And obviously saying Oppenheimer obviously won best drama at the Golden Globes. It's thoroughly deserved, and also it's great to see Emma Thomas do a speech as well. I know obviously Nolan's a producer as well, but let her have her due as well. And it's a sweep, isn't it? Five wins from I can't remember how many nominations. 5 from maybe like 6 or 7. I think it's probably won everything except supporting actress. And screenplay 5 out of 7. I think off the top of my head.
Yeah,
can't fault it, and I think it's rightfully the heavyweight for the next couple of months. And looking back at the Golden Globes, I think, as we said, like bar the comedy stuff, I'm not seeing people kicking off about award winners for once. I know it's the first one. I know we're still 2 months away. There's so many of the ceremonies, but I think it set the tone, and it's a good setting of the tone for a change rather than here's an outrageously ridiculous winner to cause up a bit of a fuss, commotion. We haven't had behind the scenes politics as prevalent in other years, whether it's still happening, hopefully not. But it seems like if the Golden Globes has got it together, then it is going to become once again like a credible award ceremony. It's still always going to be the Golden Globes. It's still going to be the piss at one, the one with the comedian, but it's a step in the right direction if they're at least doing the right films with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is a step in the right direction, even if they didn't get the host right this year for, the occasion. But honestly, I mean, we've made a little bit of debate on some of the awards, but realistically, once again, none of the decisions were controversial. They're all like, oh, well, they deserved it. Maybe there was someone who was battling with them for it, but they deserved it in the end. It's a completely inoffensive, completely correct awards list where no one's crying over the results. It's gone with almost without controversies. It was almost completely killed by Joe Coy. But apart from that, I don't see anything on there where I'm like up in arms about, the result of it. And that's kind of what you want from awards. We have too many controversies of things being left off nomination lists, things being snubbed, awards going the wrong way on the night and stuff like that to films that don't deserve it or shouldn't have won it. And, we've done the Oscars now on the channel for how many years now? Like 6-7 years or something like that.
I think it'll be the 9th year this year we do it.
Jesus. So we've done it.
It'll be 8 or 9 this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a year where there wasn't a controversial pick or there wasn't one where we were like, whoa, okay. It's nice to actually look at a rewards results and go, do you know what? I kind of agree with that. That makes complete sense. And we'll see how things shake up with the other awards. The Emmys kind of going on and the Oscars, obviously, the nominations coming out reasonably soon. It's going to be heating up in this awards season, and we're covering all of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what wins where and whether there will be whether it will follow suit or whether it will take a turn or see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of with you on this. It's going to be an exciting one. I think especially not just post-COVID, post-strike, post-COVID, the cast is here. People are looking back at the industry. Unless you're a comedian, which jokes aren't landing, no one's going to be going for the writers. But it is one of the mixed society. And for people that are watching that are still with us, do stick around. As an Oscar season, award season, we're covering it properly this year. The Emmys is next Sunday, I've just checked, and that's going to be a big one. We mentioned earlier about The Last of Us versus Succession. We've also got so many other things. The Emmys is a massively underrated award show, if I'm being really honest. I do think, again, because it's TV. But that also rounds out the year of TV, which, again, normally is August because the strike stayed it. But you know what? I think it's much better that the Emmys are in award season. It kind of makes it a bit funner. It doesn't stand out on the sore foot. Probably actually does it a lot more credibility actually being in January. But that being said, that's going to round out tonight's video. So once again, thank you everybody watching. Those that want to comment your thoughts, do hit the subscribe button. We've got the awards playlist that's set up now. So as and when there are videos, we'll pop them up in there. They'll be on the channel homepage. We'll, of course, be building up to the Oscars. We might have some more reviews. I mentioned Poor Things will be tomorrow night. It'll be late tomorrow night here in the UK. And a couple of other films that I'm trying to think of in my head that are very much due out. Iron Claw didn't even make the list for Golden Globes because it wasn't ready to be screened. That's the ultimate, that's the definition of dark horse. The film that couldn't make the first awards run, but could pop up in the others. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled. We're not getting that until February. Fuck's sake, in the UK. But I'm not going to swear about wrestling. As I said, once again, thank you all. Get us on social media, linktree.com/cinemasavvy. We announce our streams on there, Twitter, Facebook, Letterboxd, Instagram. We've got reels on Instagram every Friday and a couple of other ones that we've been able to do. So do check us out on there. And until the next time, thank you all for watching. Thank you for commenting. And we'll see you on the next one.